So this is the camera for tonight, and let's probably start with some lights. Let's go. Hey guys, I know talking about cameras isn't particularly interesting, however, none of us wants to buy a camera that isn't suitable for them, and today I'm talking about this. And this is a IP camera, security camera from ieGeek, and it's beautifully named ZS-GX5S. I almost remembered that. And looking at its specification, it has a lot of interesting features, especially for me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and start with the box, because there are a couple of interesting things inside. So you probably noticed that the camera is massive, and the box for the camera is even bigger because it consists of a couple of accessories that you don't usually see are included in a box. You can obviously buy them for other cameras, but these are included, and we're talking about obviously a charger and a solar panel with a long extension cable, which comes in handy. Now, this is a battery operated camera. It has a massive 13,500 milliamps battery, well, could act as a power bank, and it will last you several months depending on how battery unfriendly you're going to be. Given all the accessories inside, I was keen enough to check the price. And this camera in a pre-order state, it cost $159, which is actually quite a lot, which at the same time is gonna set my expectation a little bit higher because, well, let's face it, it's an expensive camera, and if it's an expensive camera, I am expecting expensive features. It is huge, and it has this massive double-sided LED floodlight array. It's really bright, and it can illuminate Arya to about 5 to 7 meters outdoors. It has absolutely no problem in filling the room with a light. It's a Wi-Fi camera, but here comes the first disappointment. It only supports 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. There's no 5 GHz band, which at this price point I would expect this to be included. We also have 2K resolution, so a little bit more than 1080p, which is ideal for outdoor situation. I don't mind 1080p for indoor, but if you want to record stuff only outdoor, then resolution matters. Definitely, especially if you want to get those sweet details from your picture. I already mentioned the battery and the solar panel. It also comes with the SD card support for up to 128 gigabytes, so that's a lot of storage I can include in that. And it has a color night mode, which is super cool because I actually prefer that than plain on infrared vision. Infrared vision is supported as well. If that isn't enough, you can also have two-way conversation because there is a microphone and a built-in speaker at the bottom of the camera, and a nice accessories to actually fit it on the wall without any problems. More on that a little bit later.
That's not just true for
If you look at the belly of the camera, it reveals the nicely sealed flap, because it's obviously outdoor rated camera, where you can store SD card, has a reset and power button, and charging. Now, like I said, this is an expensive camera. Why USB micro USB instead, not USB Type-C? Come on, 21st century, we need that. We need USB Type-C everywhere. So that's another disappointment to my list of disappointments. As the cat is out of the box, it's time to get it connected, and for that you'll have to download ieGeek application to obviously link it to this camera via Wi-Fi. The process was unremarkably easy. All you have to do is just follow the instructions, scan QR code, and you are ready. What I would like to highlight as well, it's the camera that has one of the lowest latencies in terms of access. I used several battery operated cameras in the past, and they usually take a couple of seconds to connect. This one is really quick. I like it. The interface in the app is pretty standard, so you'll have all the useful features on the main card, and then you can access the history if you're using SD card, or cloud history if you're using plans. And speaking of cloud plans, I know you don't like them, but they're actually not that expensive, and they are pretty flexible as well. So depending on how long you want your content to be recorded and how long you want to store it, it all starts with $299 per month. that's actually pretty reasonable. The first thing you probably want to know is the video quality, because let's face it, it's an IP camera, right? It's the main purpose of that. And I'm pleased to report that the stream from the camera is actually pretty good. 2K video shines, and thanks to a good dynamic range, you won't have these problems when there is a nice and sunny day outside and the shadows are completely hidden in the darkness or blacks. You'll be able to get the details out of it whether it's shining or raining. That's nice. Switching to a night recording mode, you have infrared, which will operate for most of the time unless the LED panel is connected, and then you can force the camera into a full color mode, something I like because it actually reproduces the color pretty well and gives a lot of details despite lighting conditions not being that great. And here comes the biggest problem when it comes to video quality. No matter what I did, I always get the lens flares from the source of light on outside. Now that was only present when the camera was set to infrared mode. I didn't have this problem when the LED panel was engaged and the camera was streaming in a color mode, but every time it was switching back to the infrared, I would see the lens flare, sometimes making the footage really hard to read. And trust me, I cleaned the lens several times. I tried to see if there is additional layer of, I don't know, protective film or something that would cause that flaring. But I was unsuccessful. It's not much I can do about it. I even tried pointing camera indoors, and then I quickly realized as soon as I seen the reflection of the light in my mirror, the lens flare would return. So bear that in mind. If you're pointing this camera at absolute darkness, chances are you're not going to be affected by this. And the camera comes to your help with these massive LED panels. They're seriously bright, and you can control the duration of the default illumination and the brightness itself, so that will help you conserve the battery if you want to extend the life of the battery. We already know that despite me pointing the camera at moving leaves and everything, the stream from the camera looks actually pretty decent. So how about the footage stored on SD card? The good news is that the footage is stored as MP4 files, so you can simply just grab them, copy them, and you have your security footage there. Now the bad news about it that recording isn't the highest quality. The bitrate is really low considering that this is supposed to be 2K recording. Now if you can see me walking there, like my face is blurred and it just doesn't capture enough details for this, and I think for an outdoor camera you should at least be given the choice of recording that footage at higher bitrate so you could have some usable footage in case there is a security breach and you want to recover it. Which leads me to another point in this review, which is motion and human detection. Now, I haven't seen any specific settings for human detection itself. Now, motion detection is scalable from 1 to 10, so you can set the camera to how sensitive you want it to be, but the menus are filled with references to human detection. I went through settings, even the custom settings, where it kind of indicates that it should respond to humans in front of the camera, but if I check the statistics on the cards, for the past week I had not a single human recorded, even though I have actually people in frame. But there is another thing that I should really mention. At first, I couldn't get a single event to register on the camera, and the camera was not reporting anything. So I decided to restore the camera to factory setting, and that solved the issue. I wasn't sure what caused it and why I wasn't getting any detection. I've double-checked all the settings, including the settings responsible for detecting in specific areas of the screen, because that's also included, but everything seems to be alright. But after the reset, everything started to work okay, so I wasn't complaining. After running the camera for several days, I started to notice that not all the motion events are being registered. I've noticed that after my neighbor actually brought the bin over after the bin day, and I only see her leaving my drive rather than appearing in the drive with the bin. I know for sure that the camera should really register her entering my path with the bin, because I know what path she would have taken, because I remember where I left the bin. So that led me to the conclusion that not all of the events are being registered. And in my further testing, I discovered that the camera needs to really point in the area that you want those detections to happen. Now mine was mounted parallel to the drive, which isn't optimal, but I was limited where I can mount the camera and I couldn't point it down. But in my testing indoors, the camera worked flawlessly, and each time I would walk into a room, it would detect me without any problems. Speaking of detection and notification, you will get a notifications pretty instantly on your mobile phone as soon as the motion happens in front of the camera, which is plus. What is not a plus is that that notification doesn't have a thumbnail. Usually when you have a card inserted into the camera, you get a thumbnail with a preview that basically tells you whether you should be interested or not in the notification. Now on the good side, once you click on that notification, it will take you to the screen that has the thumbnail and it will kind of tell you what was going on at what time. I hope they're gonna fix this because it looks like that notification actually should have a picture in there. For whatever reason, it doesn't. Now that you know how to detect people, you probably want to know whether you can talk to them, and yes, you have an intercom function available, which is actually pretty decent speaker on board of this camera. Other smart features in the app allow you to set necessary schedules and detection area for the camera, so you can only record the events that you care about. But there is another problem. You can't really link this to any smart speaker, so you can't link it to Alexa or Google Home because there are no responsible skills for that. Another thing is, because there is no real-time streaming protocol, you can't really hook it up to your NVR and have that footage stored elsewhere. You can either choose SD card or the cloud. Another thing that confuses me slightly is the fact that while I fully understand why in the battery operating mode you're limited to motion recording only, because they want to extend the battery obviously, but in a solar panel mode or when you connect a charger to, basically make this battery permanently connected to a plug, you don't have an option for constant recording, which is a weird move. Either way, depending on your settings, you're limited to 10, 20 and 30 second clips, so that's all we're given right now. And probably my last complaint is the timeline. Now, for the most part, each event is selected with a blue stripe, which is okay. However, you'll have to wait a little bit until all of the events are being loaded, otherwise the timeline is gonna jump from one event to another. So make sure you're gonna give it a couple of seconds until all the recording events are loaded and presented on the timeline before you start moving from side to side. I wish they kind of resolved it a little bit better. I would estimate that the battery at full use with longer recording clips, with LED lights being at max and using them in the evening every time something moves, it's gonna last about 5 weeks. Now obviously you can extend that even further by trimming some of the features, and you can easily get probably 3 to 4 months out of it. Now if you have a solar panel and you're not living in UK, then you can look into maybe even 6 to 8 months or maybe more if you have a really nice sun, but well, I'm here and I'm limited in terms of sun delivery. I guess it's time for conclusion, and I have a problem because it started well. It has all the features I really wanted from an IP camera like that, and it's not an inexpensive camera, so my standards are definitely set appropriately. As much as I appreciate the hardware and everything that the camera can do, somehow I feel that just software-wise this device doesn't live up to its price and my expectations. The good news is that majority of my complaints could be actually addressed via firmware update. The bad news is I don't know if they're going to do it, so you'll have to make up your own mind. So if you're interested and you want to check it out closer, then in the description of this video is usually gonna be a link to an article and a link to the product itself. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and if you want to know what's next, and I do not have a posting schedule, you know how YouTube works, a couple of social media links down below, you probably know what to do with them as well. So, big thanks for sticking around, and see you next time. Bye!